My name is James Edward Wilson. I'm 99 years old and I've been carrying a weight in my chest for longer than most people live. Not the kind that kills you quick, but the kind that sits there, patient as stone, waiting for the day you finally find the courage to set it down. I grew up in Alabama during a time when the world told me every single day what I wasn't allowed to be. My daddy worked the same cotton fields his father worked, and his father before him. When I was 7 years old, I watched him come home one evening with his hands so torn up from the thorns that my mama had to soak them in salt water for an hour before she could pull the splinters out. He never complained, never said a word about the pain. He just looked at me across that table and said, "Boy, you gonna be something different. You hear me? Something different." I carried those words like a gospel. When I was 17, I met a girl named Ruth at a church social. She had this laugh that could fill up a room, the kind that made you forget whatever troubles you walked in with. She wore a yellow dress that day, and I remember thinking I'd never seen anything so bright in all my life. We talked for 3 hours standing by the punch table, and by the time the evening ended, I knew I was going to marry her. I just knew it the way you know your own name. We got married 2 years later in that same church. I was 19 years old and working 2 jobs, one at the mill during the day and another cleaning offices at night. Ruth worked as a seamstress, her fingers moving so fast over that fabric you'd think she was born with a needle in her hand. We lived in a tiny apartment above a barber shop, and every morning I'd wake up to the smell of hair tonic and the sound of Ruth humming while she made coffee. We were poor as dirt, but I swear to you, those were some of the happiest days of my life. She got pregnant with our first child in 1947. I'll never forget the day she told me. I was sitting at our little kitchen table, exhausted from a double shift, and she just walked up behind me, put her hands on my shoulders, and whispered it in my ear. I turned around and looked at her, and for a moment I couldn't speak. All I could think about was my daddy's words, something different. I was going to be a father, and that child was going to have opportunities I never had. We named him Thomas. He came into this world screaming like he was angry about something, and from that first moment, he had Ruth's eyes, dark and deep and full of questions. I held him in my arms that first night in the hospital, and I made him a promise. I promised him I would work harder than any man had ever worked to give him a better life. I promised him he would go to college. I promised him he would never have to feel the weight of limitation the way I had. I kept that promise. I worked myself half to death to keep it. Over the next 10 years, Ruth and I had 3 more children. Thomas, then Margaret, then the twins, David and Sarah. Our apartment got smaller and our expenses got bigger, but somehow we managed. Ruth took in extra sewing work, staying up late into the night to finish dresses for women who could afford to pay her. I picked up a 3rd job on weekends doing yard work for families on the other side of town. We were tired all the time, but we told ourselves it was worth it. We told ourselves we were building something. The thing is, when you're working that hard, when you're moving that fast just to keep your head above water, you start to miss things. Little things at first. A school play here, a birthday party there. You tell yourself you'll make it up later. You tell yourself they understand. You tell yourself that providing for them is the same thing as being there for them. Thomas was the first one I started to lose. He was 12 years old when I realized I didn't really know him anymore. I'd come home late one evening and found him sitting at the kitchen table doing his homework. I asked him how school was, and he just shrugged and said fine without looking up. I stood there for a moment, trying to think of something else to say, and realized I didn't know what he was studying, didn't know who his friends were, didn't know what he did after school or what he thought about or what made him laugh anymore. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that once I got the promotion at the mill, once we saved up a little more money, I'd have more time. But that promotion came and went, and I just found new reasons to work longer hours. Better pay meant better opportunities, and better opportunities meant I needed to work harder to take advantage of them. Ruth tried to talk to me about it. I remember one night, must have been around 1955. She waited up for me, even though it was past midnight. She was sitting in the dark when I came in, and when I turned on the light, I could see she'd been crying. She said, "James, the children need you." And I said, "I'm doing this for the children." She just looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read and said, "They need you here, not just your money." I got defensive. I told her she didn't understand what it took to keep a roof over our heads. I told her my father would have given anything to be able to provide the way I was providing. I told her she should be grateful instead of complaining. The words came out harsher than I meant them, and I saw something break in her eyes. She didn't argue with me. She just got up and went to bed. We never really talked about it again after that night. She stopped bringing it up, and I convinced myself that meant she understood. But what it really meant was that she'd given up trying to reach me. Thomas graduated high school in 1960. He was valedictorian of his class, first person in our family to accomplish something like that. I was so proud I could have burst. I sat in that auditorium watching him give his speech, and I thought about my daddy's words, something different. I'd done it. I'd kept my promise. He got a full scholarship to Howard University. The day we drove him up to Washington, I helped him carry his boxes into his dormitory room, and I shook his hand, and I told him to make us proud. He looked at me with those dark eyes that reminded me so much of Ruth, and he said, "I'll try, sir." Sir, like I was someone he respected but didn't really know. He came home less and less after that. Holidays mostly, and even then he seemed distant. He'd sit at the dinner table and answer our questions politely, but I could feel the wall between us. I told myself it was normal, that all young men pulled away from their fathers when they went out into the world. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Margaret left for college 2 years later, then the twins a few years after that. And suddenly, it was just me and Ruth in that house we'd finally managed to buy in 1959. All those years of working, all those hours of overtime, and now we had this beautiful house with 4 empty bedrooms and silence so thick you could choke on it. Ruth got sick in 1972, cancer. The doctors found it too late to do much about it. I took time off work for the first time in decades to take care of her. I'd sit by her bed and hold her hand, and we'd talk about the old days, the apartment above the barbershop, the way Thomas used to scream as a baby, the yellow dress she wore when we met. One afternoon, a few weeks before she passed, she looked at me and said, "Do you have any regrets, James?" I started to say no, started to tell her that I'd lived a good life and given our children everything I'd promised. But something in her eyes stopped me. She wasn't asking if I'd succeeded. She was asking if I'd lost anything along the way. I couldn't answer her. I just held her hand and felt the weight of all those years pressing down on my chest. She died on a Tuesday morning in October. All 4 children came home for the funeral. Thomas had become a lawyer. Margaret was a teacher. David was a doctor, and Sarah worked for the government. They'd all done exactly what I'd hoped they would do. They'd all become something different. But standing there at Ruth's grave, watching them comfort each other while barely acknowledging me, I realized the cost of that success. I'd given them opportunities, yes. I'd given them education and financial stability and a path out of the poverty I'd grown up in. But I hadn't given them me. I'd been so busy working for their future that I'd missed their present. I'd missed the moments that actually mattered. After the funeral, Thomas stayed an extra day. We sat in the living room, the same room where I used to come home late and find him doing homework, and we tried to talk, but we didn't know how. We were strangers who shared blood and a last name, but not much else. He told me about his law practice, and I told him about my plans for retirement, and we danced around everything that actually needed to be said. Before he left, he paused at the door and said, "You did good, Dad. You gave us everything you promised." And I realized that to him, that was a compliment. He didn't know that he was also telling me exactly what I'd lost. I'm 99 years old now, and I've spent the last 27 years since Ruth died trying to build bridges I should have built when I was young. I call my children every week. I go to visit them, meet my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, show up for the moments I used to think were less important than working. Some of those relationships have healed, some haven't. Thomas and I are better than we were, but there's still a distance there that we both feel and neither of us knows how to cross. The secret I've been carrying isn't dramatic. There's no shocking revelation or hidden truth that's going to change everything. The secret is simply this: I was wrong. I was wrong to believe that providing was the same as loving. I was wrong to think that money and opportunity could replace presence. I was wrong to sacrifice the people I loved on the altar of the future I was trying to build for them. I thought I was giving them everything, but what I was really doing was giving them everything except myself. My daddy told me to be something different, and I was. But in my rush to be different from him, I forgot to ask what my children actually needed from me. They didn't need me to work myself to death. They needed me to be there. They needed me to know them. They needed me to choose them over and over again, even when it cost me something. I look at my great-grandchildren now, and I see their parents making different choices than I did. I see them leaving work early to go to soccer games. I see them turning down promotions because it would mean less time at home. I see them understanding something that took me a lifetime to learn. Time is the only thing you can't get back, and the people you love won't wait forever for you to figure that out. If I could go back, I wouldn't work less hard. I'd work differently. I'd work smarter so I could be home for dinner. I'd say no to that extra shift so I could say yes to my son's baseball game. I'd sit with Ruth on our tiny apartment balcony and just talk instead of falling asleep the second my head hit the pillow. I'd choose presence over productivity, connection over achievement, being there over getting ahead. But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is learn from the choices we made and hope that sharing those lessons might help someone else make different ones. So here's what I want you to know before I go. Success isn't just about what you accomplish or what you provide or what you build for the people you love. Real success is measured in moments, in showing up, in being known and knowing the people who matter most. Your children don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to give them everything. They need you to be present. They need you to see them. They need you to choose them again and again, even when the world is telling you that working harder and earning more is the same thing as loving them better. It's not. It never was. I'm 99 years old, and I'm running out of time to make up for the years I lost, but you're not. If you're hearing this, and you're working late again, telling yourself it's for your family, ask yourself if that's really true. If you're missing another dinner, another game, another moment because you're building a future for them, ask yourself if you're building it with them or without them. Don't make the mistake I made. Don't wait until it's too late to realize that the people you love needed you more than they needed what you could give them. Don't let the fear of not being enough push you so hard that you end up being absent. Don't trade the moments that matter for the achievements that impress. I love my family. I love them with everything I had, but I love them from a distance, through the filter of work and responsibility and the weight of promises I made before I understood what they would cost. And now, at the end of my life, I have a beautiful legacy of success and a hollow place in my chest where deeper connections should have been. You still have time. You still have the chance to do what I didn't, to be there, to know and be known, to choose love over achievement, presence over productivity, connection over legacy. That's what I needed to tell you before I go. That's the secret I've been carrying. I did my best with what I knew, but my best wasn't always what they needed. Learn from that. Be better than I was. Choose differently. Choose them while you still can.